to my channel. I'm Jasmine, the Six Figure Formulator, and today I'm going to give you a brief overview on some really important things that you're going to need to know about starting a skincare business. Let's get started. First things first, what you're going to want to do is own your craft. That means holding yourself to the highest standard of accountability whenever it comes to the research part of anything that you make. You want to make sure that even though as a student we're always learning, you need to, when it comes to you selling something, you need to be very, very well versed in everything that product does. Good, bad, ugly. You need to know the benefits as well as the possible issues that a certain ingredient may have when it comes to certain parts of the skin or the body. For example, knowing comedogenic ratings, knowing the absorption rate of something, knowing the allergen factors. These are all things you need to know, because the most important thing is when you start your business, people are going to have a lot of questions, and you don't ever want it to become an issue where publicly somebody tells you something about your product that you should have known. So this will prevent that from happening. And part of owning your craft is also being able to articulate very well what the product does, all of the ins and outs that we discussed about being well versed and knowing what that product is. Also know how to articulate that well. Know how to talk to people in a friendly, welcoming inviting manner, I should say. So for example, you may be very well versed in the scientific part of it. Know who your audience is and recognize how to break it down to them in a way that's digestible and that they can really like, that makes them more prone to buying. Being able to articulate yourself and everything about your products is going to be very key when it comes to getting people to actually try them. Next, we're going to cover what it takes to generate interest. This is a very important part of your business, and I want to say the staple between you really launching or just kind of staying in a small unknown kind of space. You want to make yourself visible. And so how you generate interest for your brand is the first thing you're going to do. Now bear with me here. You are going to want to know who your target audience is before you even launch or before you even talk about anything. You also want to know what your niche is going to be. And this way you'll be able to identify, if you know where you are and you establish your brand identity, you will be able to know everything about your customers and who your potential customers are going to be. If you do not establish your brand identity, then you are going to have a much more difficult time identifying who your target market is. And don't be afraid to narrow your niche. So once you've figured out who your target market is going to be, this is what's key to generating interest. So that you can go ahead and start planning and creating the things that it's going to take to attract them. One thing that's important when it comes to attracting anybody in the skincare business is aesthetic. This is monumental to establish your aesthetic and make sure that people know exactly what you're about and what to expect from you. Aesthetic is huge whenever it comes to the skincare business. It can mean the difference between people taking you seriously or people not even noticing you and continuing to scroll or brush past your brand marketing. All of your graphics, all of your pictures have an established aesthetic that's pleasing to the eye, that is fun and easy for people to fall in love with. And this way you'll be able to generate interest and people can start associating your brand with a clean, professional aesthetic that they love. Another way to generate interest is to just jump in the conversation. All conversations about skincare, and really find yourself in places that are going to be having these conversations. You want to be in groups that are catered to whatever your market's going to be. For example, mine with Black Flower Co. was a lot of mom groups. A mother myself, that's a little bit more on the holistic side. A lot of conversation came up with the topic of cleaner skincare for kids. And even whenever you're not selling something, and this is key to being in conversations with people, don't jump in conversations with people with the intent on just dropping your links and just salesing them. Just talk to people, just have a conversation. This is a time for you to kind of flex your knowledge a little bit, show what you know, tell us what you know, and always, always, always let people ask you for your link. And then if they ask you for your link, make sure you're aware of group rules to see if it's going to be against the rules for you to post it or not. Then give it to them or send it to their inbox. Just gently, don't be pushy with the links and doing these copy paste types of sales messages and comments to people. Just be inviting, be very informative, and be helpful, and this will establish you and see people will remember you and having this conversation with you, and this establishes you and that connection to knowing about skincare. And so that way when you're ready to present your skincare items, they're going to remember that and they're going to be already warmed up to purchasing from you. And always, when it comes to generating interest, you guys will hear me say this several times, I want to emphasize on just being inviting. Whatever that means for your brand, be inviting, be welcoming. Don't intimidate people. Try to be able to gauge the temperature of conversations, the culture of certain groups. Always be inviting. Inviting is going to make people gravitate towards you. They're going to be interested in whatever you have going on, and that much more willing to open up to you and feel comfortable sharing around you and coming to you. This is important when it comes to generating interest. You want to make sure that you're very welcoming to your audience. One thing that's huge to selling and just establishing yourself as a skincare brand is acquiring trust. If people don't trust you, they won't buy anything from you. Even if you have the end-all be-all answer skincare cream that just makes you look younger in like seconds within applying, nobody's gonna buy it from you if they do not trust you. And vice versa, if they do trust you, people will be willing to buy anything from you, and that could be a simple oil, that could be any type of butter, it could be something so simple, but people love you, they trust you, and they're willing to buy from you. So acquiring trust is a very sacred thing that has to happen between you and your consumers. Once you've got their attention and you're able to get eyes on you, you need to maintain that trust. One of the number one ways to maintain trust or gain it from people is to be transparent. Show your process. Always make yourself humble and relatable, and this way people will feel more comfortable being able to trust that you're always going to be honest about yourself. It doesn't mean, though, let me be clear, that you have to go just showcasing your flaws all the time. Just showing how and where and when you do things, being able to talk about your process, being able to share ingredients with people. Just always, it's kind of like one of those things where it gives you a helpful type of vibe. And if you have that type of vibe to you, people are going to be able to trust you because they're always going to feel like you are in it to help in some way, shape, or form. You're always going to want to be authentic whenever it comes to your audience as well. And I say care for them in a way to where it's authentic to you. It doesn't mean that you have to exude what we call toxic positivity, where you are just always trying to be super extra positive everywhere. It's good to be positive, but you need to make sure that you're being honest and authentic and authentically you. So you need to find ways to connect with your audience that you can show genuine care for. Genuinely care for their needs, listen to them, be willing to talk to them, be willing to mirror and reflect them so that they can always see themselves in your products as well. And these kind of things, being transparent, being able to acquire trust from people, and having, of course, those genuinely amazing products is going to help people to want to try from you and buy from you more often. Have brand confidence. Walk tall. Even before you are a big business, get that big business energy. Always be very professional with your customers. Know that these connections that you're building with people are very strong because you're always bringing your A game. You're walking it before you're walking it and talking it before it even really happens. And it will come because you're generating that type of energy towards your business walk tall even when you're still small. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there and really take pride in your brand. Talk to people, have icebreakers. Don't be afraid to let people know how amazing and awesome your products are, because in this part of your business, you've done everything to make sure that they are. You know about your products, you've owned your craft, and you know that what you're selling is awesome. Always have that energy with people in a very humble way, and people will gravitate towards you, and they'll be like, wow, look at this brand, look at her, look at the way she talks about things. She or he, by the way, whatever it is that you identify. And just be big brand energy. I mean, that's what you got to do. Walk tall, even when you're small. Now let's get into a little bit of the technical part. This part can be a little bit scary to people, understandably, because here's where it comes for the pricing. How do you price your products? Let me give you a little bit of insider advice here, okay? You're not setting competitive prices. Don't do that to yourself. Don't set prices that are competing with Walmart, Target, with Sephora, any brands, big or small. You are you offering your knowledge, offering your experience with the ingredients in whatever quantities you were able to get them for, in whatever prices, and always establish that. Be confident with your prices, and know that if anybody reacts in any sort of way that's negative to your pricing, they are not your customer. Because there are people that will happily pay whatever your prices may be, knowing that they're paying for quality, they're paying for your packaging, everything that you put into there, your expertise, including your time, is all what's going to go into your pricing. You need to be able to say that with confidence without having to explain your pricing, and just say it confidently. Your price is what it is. Either they're going to pay or they won't. Make sure that you pay yourself and that you compensate yourself well enough to be profitable, and there's no shame in being profitable. You're a respected business, and just like anybody else, you have a living to make. You have your own life things that you need to pay for. So just remember that, and I say this because a lot of people short sell themselves on their pricing, trying to compete with others, trying to compete with Walmart. Price according to your branding, according to how expensive or inexpensive it is to make each bottle of butter, oil, whatever skincare that you're making, and according to your expertise and your time. This is how you should price or base your pricing on. The labeling. Let's get into the labeling. What needs to be on your labels? There are regulations depending on what area you're in for what needs to be on the labels. I will be dropping a link below in the description to where you can find what these regulations are according to US standards. In general, what needs to be on your label is a display of information. Your customers need to know the ingredients, what the product contains, any sort of warnings or disclaimers. It needs to have a name, and it needs to have this in a way that is clean, easy to read, and really puts forth your it speaks your brand's message that you're trying to convey. So you want to make sure that your readability is there. You don't want to have any fonts that are not very readable. You want to make sure that you have a clean, concise look, and that your branding is in your labeling as well as very consistent. I do recommend wraparound labels. Those are the best, that have the most space to be able to cleanly fit all of that information that I'm talking about that you're going to want to have on there. Another thing that you want to make sure of is that your labels are labels and that they're not stickers. Stickers are not weatherproof and they're not waterproof. And you want to make sure that your labels are that, because customers still want that nice, pretty aesthetic. Even after they buy your product and they see what it is, they read the label, they still want to be able to look at the label and reference that to every time. It's part of the experience. So you don't want to buy stickers that are going to wash off, that are going to fade, or rinse off. And if you're making labels, you want to make sure that you know exactly how to make these labels weatherproof and waterproof so they can last for as long as your customers have them. Another important part to your labeling is you want to make sure that you put your labels on after sanitizing the bottles, your containers that you get, once you sanitize them properly, but before filling. From experience, I used to fill and then label the products. It can just get a lot of oils or very messy on there. So labeling prior to really helps to save you from that. And I know it seems like that might be like, well, duh, Jasmine, but you know, like me, that's one thing I wanted to make sure I let you guys know, because that's a mistake that I wish somebody would have kind of told me about. So I'm offering it to you guys. So when it comes to your labeling, they need to be informative, they need to be clean and professional, align with your branding, and make sure they are water and weatherproof so that your customer can have a great experience with your products all the way up until they have empty bottles. Last but not least, let's wrap up with the packaging. The packaging overall is going to include everything from how you literally put things in a box and send to your customers, and just in what kind of bottles you choose to use for specific items. You want to make sure that the aesthetic is there. The aesthetic is very important. But even more importantly than the aesthetic is you want to make sure that your bottles are functional for the product. For example, you don't want to put a body wash in a jar where the customer is going to have a difficult time actually using the product. You want to make sure that your customers have a great experience with the package. So even if you have to sacrifice the aesthetic just very minimally, then it's better to do that. So at least the product is functional and it holds well to your products. And with functionality, you also want to make sure that you get a small amount of packaging before you just order big and get 1,000 bottles. Sometimes some bottles are more prone to leaking for one way, shape, or another than another. So you want to make sure that you have bottles that are appropriately sized for whatever product you're going to make, that the lids are appropriately sized to whatever the neck size of the bottle is, because there's all these factors vary. So you want to order in small quantities first to make sure that you're getting the correct type of bottles that are gonna function, look amazing, and be able to uphold the process of shipping in itself. Another thing that you want to be sure of is to have backup suppliers. Our biggest hit that we had was during COVID, right smack in the middle of the summer. And during that time, it was very difficult to get a hold of a lot of our supplies. Some of our suppliers disappeared and fell off the face of the earth. And some of the bottles that we were looking for were more popular than others, and it was very difficult to find certain things. You always want to have backup suppliers for everything, and not just the packaging, but even ingredients, anything that just so that you have a plan in the event that event arises where you're going to have a shortage of this. Make sure that you anticipate this as well. When it comes to actually shipping your products, sometimes, no matter how well packaged everything is, you have your bubble mailers, you have your shipping insulation, you have everything, and you've done everything that you need to do. Sometimes couriers don't handle your package as well as they should, and this can result in breakage, leakage, and issues whenever you're shipping your products. And you need to make sure to account for this and really calculate how you're going to resolve this the best way, shape, or form. This is something that's unpreventable. It's a part of business that happens, and you need to make sure that you're prepared and ready to respond when this happens. And so you can also perfect your shipping methods to try to prevent as much of the damage happening as you possibly can. Overall, with your packaging, you want to make sure that you have a clean, uniform look, that your packaging and that your containers as well are durable for shipping, that they function well, and that overall your customers are going to have the best experience with them. This is part of the customer experience as well that people kind of don't anticipate or don't expect, is the packaging, the actual bottles it comes from, and how it arrives. You want to ensure that you do everything that you can on your end to let the customer have an amazing experience with your products that'll make them more prone to buying next time. These are my best tips that I have for anybody that's going to go into starting a skincare business. Make sure that you check all these boxes prior to even launching. These are things that you need to have figured out so you can know what you need to do when the time arises, and so that you can really measure what was strong about your launch in the beginning and what maybe needed to have some improvement. I am going to have a video, another tutorial that goes really in depth for what I call the 3 most important pillars to establishing a foundation in your business. And I'm gonna go ahead and link that in the description so you guys can go and purchase that as well. And I go in depth in talking about those 3 stages in your business that are not only gonna establish your business and give you a full thriving start, but they're also going to align you and set you up to be able to repeat this pattern and process so you can continue to have success in your business. This is a video you're not going to want to miss out on, so make sure that you cop that whenever you can. Well, I hope all of this was informative and that everybody likes the video. I hope you guys are learning from these videos that I'm doing. I appreciate so much all of the support, and I want to see you guys succeed. So I'll see you guys on the next one. And if you have any questions or comments, make sure to ask me, like, subscribe, follow, all of that stuff. You guys have a wonderful day. Bye.